So Jess and I are back with our college football segment, and we have decided, after hearing your name suggestions, to not go with any of them. All of them were bad, made me very uncomfortable, and I had to close my DMs.
They were all so bad.
So
At
terrible.
one point, Dan texted me and was like, our audience takes great pride in wordplay and naming segments of our show. And I was like,
I felt victimized with those. I was like, oh my God, Twitter should have blocked this out. I shouldn't be able to see it. So we're just going to go unnamed for a bit, all right? We're not going to have an identity, kind of like Clemson football right now. How good was the transition was that?
My God!
I don't even know if that's the order we're supposed to go in, but it
Doesn't matter.
It felt really nice.
Let it flow.
It felt really well put together. And now as I sit and talk about it, it feels significantly less. But Clemson, I was off. I thought Clemson would be a lot better this year. I thought the coordinators would make a difference. Garrett Riley had better weapons at TCU than he does at Clemson. And we saw that. And we love our Duke Blue Devils, though. We really do.
Yeah, I think Clemson is in a really tough spot right now because I know that a lot of the conversation coming off of their big primetime loss to Duke on Monday night has been about how Dabo is not using the portal. And if you compare Clemson to Florida State in the way that Florida State has had such an immediate positive impact from their skill position transfer portal players compared to what Clemson has done the last couple years, like there's a huge gulf in between the two. Like Dabo does not want to use the portal. He does not believe in the portal. However, I think there's way more going on there. I think that's like maybe a small element of it. And I think that like had Clemson gotten a few really great top-notch players in the portal, yeah, they'd be in a better position. They'd be a better team. But I think what's going on in Clemson is a bit of a more systemic issue. I think Brent Venables leaving has not been discussed enough in terms of the legacy that he left at Clemson and the dynasty that their defense had there for a decade. I think that the development of players is a big thing to watch. Like, Clemson did not whiff on quarterbacks with DJ Uiagalelei and Cade Klubnik 2 cycles in a row. Like, those were both top of their class guys. Like, DJ was only behind Bryce Young in his quarterback class. Cade was only behind Drew Allar, who was the Penn State quarterback who we saw debut on Saturday night. Those are both really supposed to be really good guys, and if they both don't work out, I think that speaks more to Clemson than to those two guys. And we also saw DJ finally play this weekend outside of Clemson. Had a really good game, Lucy.
We owe him an apology. At my last job, this game we used to play was we would put up stats and say Clemson or Iowa, and most of the time you couldn't tell. You could not tell the difference between the offensive stats of Clemson and Iowa. And against Duke, it showed. And if Iowa is the bar, you are in a bad, bad spot.
Yeah, I also saw a quote that Dabo, instead of running the air raid, he said he wanted to run the dirt raid.
Yeah. He's doing that in God's name, image, and likeness.
Nice. But yeah, I think Clemson's got some issues to work out. They might still end up like making the conference championship game. They might still end up in a playoff. I don't think they will end up in the playoff, but they might end up being a good team, not a great team. But they do have major systemic issues. And I think when it comes to Florida State, you have to look at their schedule now and think, seems kind of wide open for them in the ACC.
Watch out for Duke. Watch out for Duke. I will say Clemson, Florida State, like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's their early one.
We're going to learn a lot about
We're gonna learn
both teams
so
in
much.
that game.
It's wild.
Are you standing by your Florida State's overrated take?
When they lose to Duke, sure. I feel like I didn't get nearly enough heat for how bad several of my takes were. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you being nice to me, but also I want things to be fair. Florida State looked phenomenal against LSU. Taylor and I were at the game. They were light years better than LSU was. And I do think that LSU got probably a little more hype than they deserved last year. Beating Bama will always do that for you. But Florida State is like a clear favorite to make the playoff right now. It's just something in my gut, something in my heart and my soul is like, there's no way Florida State can go without messing it up a little.
Yeah.
Without screwing it up a little bit.
I'll put a pin in that. We'll revisit that in a few weeks when they play Clemson, the next ranked team on their schedule. If Clemson's still ranked at the time. I imagine they will be. They've got a couple cupcakes coming up. But you're right about LSU. LSU finished the season last year a little shakier than I think people remember because of the win at Alabama. They barely eked out a win against Arkansas. The Alabama game did end in overtime. It was very, very close, like you said. And then they lost to Texas A&M in the final week of the season, and they also, lost in the SEC championship game. Played Purdue in the bowl game. I don't know if they beat the crap out of Purdue. But, like, bowl games in this day and age, you can't, like, really take too much out of them. So
Yeah, no one was playing, and it was Purdue. That was a wildly unfair matchup.
So they let up 40 points to Texas A&M, very middling offense last year, probably worse than middling. And then 50 points to Georgia. Like, now they're giving up a lot of points to Florida State in their opener. It looks like Brian Kelly's getting a lot of criticism for how he's played their star defensive player, Harold Perkins, and his positioning as an off-the-ball linebacker. You also see maybe some regression from their quarterback. You also see a team that maybe is just not ready to play in primetime, which, like, these are all things that have haunted Brian Kelly through his career at Notre Dame. And now maybe they're coming to light at LSU, but we're not going to overreact because LSU, they've got a tough schedule ahead. They might not be as bad as they looked on Sunday night.
I love the joy in your voice when you talk about Brian Kelly. I just like hear it.
I don't know what you mean about that. Taylor, producer, former North Carolina wide receiver, says that Notre Dame won the breakup. We'll see.
Absolutely.
We'll see in 5 years when all is said and done. It's too soon. It's too soon, Taylor. But yeah, Notre Dame fans definitely are getting some schadenfreude out of watching LSU win in primetime.
I should. I'm happy for them. And I've never been happy for Notre Dame fans ever before. Oh my God, I can't believe I just said that.
What else are we freaking out about? Should we talk about North Carolina, South Carolina at all?
Yeah, when I was looking at this preview doc that Taylor so lovingly put together for us, thank you. I was like, why are we talking about UNC's defense?
They had 9 sacks. They had 9 sacks.
Yeah, South Carolina's offensive line basically turned around and sacked Spencer Rattler themselves. I was like, do they hate him? Do they not like him?
South Carolina, too, is another team. They got, like, a lot of hype at the end of last season when they beat Tennessee and Clemson in back-to-back weekends. Tennessee, after their starting quarterback, Hendon Hooker, was hurt. And then Clemson, which we know Clemson had major issues last season, and they're still fixing them now, still have issues. Maybe they were a little overrated coming into the season, too.
It's South Carolina simply can't finish a season strong and then start the next season also strong. That's like inherently against what the Gamecocks stand for.
Yeah.
There was never a world where they were going to be nice to their fans like that. They
Yeah.
just can't do it. And I love to see Shane Beamer, excuse me. I do that all the time. Kind of losing his mind over it a little bit, kind of blaming things on hot dogs, which sure, go for it. Absolutely. A hot dog sacked your quarterback 9 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taylor says that Drake May just needs an average defense, and North
He really
Carolina now
does.
is a title contender.
UNC and Iowa, I think, are the inverse, where if Iowa just had like half an offense, we'd be unstoppable. And if, like, we should come together. The Lucy Rodine team, because I'm from North Carolina, I think it
Ooh,
counts.
the Rodine team.
Yeah, that sounds good. And then we would just have...
Segment name?
Ooh, but then you're not in it.
Nah, I don't care. Just kidding.
But yeah, UNC, we were talking about it a little. How wild is it that we're going to be excited for a UNC Duke football game this year? Even though last year's game ruled.
It's
It was awesome.
disgusting. I think it also goes to show like how I think hated Dabo Sweeney is by a lot of fans,
So
that
much.
people were rooting for Duke
That's
in
crazy.
any athletic endeavor this past weekend. Like, universal applause for Duke at any point will always shock me. But yeah, that was a crazy thing that actually happened.
All right, we've been doing this for a decent amount of time, and I think we just have to talk about Deion in Colorado, I think.
Yeah. Well, we talked a lot about them on the main show this week.
We really did,
Is there
so
anything
much.
left unsaid about Deion?
I want to double down. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm happy if Deion succeeds. It just scares me a little for college football, although college football is not the same, and I get it, blah, blah, blah. But Nebraska's got a good defense, so I'm looking forward to it.
We also didn't talk all week about the leaders and dogs patches on the uniforms, which, like, you're a Big Ten fan. You remember the legends and the leaders, right?
How could I forget? That
Yeah.
was the glory days.
Exactly. I feel like we didn't talk about it enough.
It's all a market. Like, Deion does it so well where he can just market his team in a different way. I know other schools have done it. I believe UCF has done it where they put social media handles on their practice jerseys.
Yeah, Jeremy's ears just
Yeah.
perked up from like 5 rooms away.
They have.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But Deion's done such a good job of branding it, so it's Colorado's not like other schools, and it's in that sense, I have a lot of respect for him in general. But that sense, it's so smart what he's doing. He's making his players NIL value and like insanely valuable, which is awesome.
I want to talk about one sneaky upset this weekend: Baylor losing to Texas State.
Oh my God!
Ooh.
That's what happens when you invite Ted Cruz to your football games. That's what happens.
Lucy, we have only a few minutes left. Should we talk about what we're going to be watching this upcoming week 2 in college football?
Oh, heck yeah, we should.
Yeah. It's a tough act to follow. This was one of the best week 1s in a while.
The 5 days straight of just like, Friday was a little bit of a bust, but everything else.
Miami. What are you talking about?
Oh, that was, I mean, God,
it was awesome.
There were 300 people there. It was crazy.
That's true. If you didn't watch that game, attendance was not great.
If you didn't watch that game, you're with all the other Miami residents. They also did not watch that game.
But yeah, Miami is playing Texas A&M this weekend. Kind of talked about it on the show this week. They're doing a BOGO ticket thing. My question is, why are they selling Upper Deck tickets for $125 to this game? Like, if you're someone who wants to bring your husband or wife or partner and 2 kids to this game, you're really going to spend $500 on Miami tickets? Like, lower the prices, and then maybe you'll get a sellout.
I saw them for $58 on Game Time. I think the code is DLB.
Nice, Lucy.
You can barely tell I'm new here.
Great plug.
Look at that.
Yeah, the tickets are going for below face value right now. That's where we're at. So
yeah, which they should. Like, neither of those teams are ones that I want to pay to see. I will say I did watch a little bit of A&M, and I believe it was New Mexico State or New Mexico. Mm-hmm. They scored points. I mean, they hired Bobby Petrino to do that. Obviously, Miami is better than well, you know what? I can't say obviously Miami is better than New Mexico State or New Mexico, which one it was. But this is a little different Texas A&M team. Jimbo's not calling the plays anymore. Mm-hmm. Thank God for everyone, unless you're a Texas A&M hater. We'll see. I'm probably not even going to really watch this game that much. El Assico's on at the exact same time, and that's...
Tell us what the over-under is on points for El Assico.
36.5.
And you're taking the under.
Absolutely. Last year, Iowa lost 10-7, so it hit last year for sure.
Oh, man, it always makes me laugh when I hear these final scores. I love it so much.
Look, we scored 2 touchdowns back-to-back.
All right, so
that's never been done before by any team ever.
And Brian Ferentz still not
terrible.
off the hook. 24 points. He's got to hit 25 per game and win 7 games.
Yeah, and I can tell you, we will not be scoring 25 points per game.
All right, so Lucy's taking the under in El Assico. That's Iowa State. That's on in the 3:30 window.
Yep.
At noon, we have Nebraska at Colorado Eastern Time. This is one of the most bet-on games, like, in betting history.
Crazy.
I don't have a pick in this game. I don't know. Nebraska looked so bad against Minnesota. They can't score points, but they have a good defense, I guess.
There's nothing wrong with not being able to score points. Not everyone can do it. I think Colorado's going to win this game, but Nebraska is a team that doesn't get blown out.
Yeah.
Like, they will put up a fight. The Minnesota game, yeah, they looked pretty bad, and they had that game in the bag till the last 2 minutes, which is pretty much how every
really blew it.
Yeah, that's how every Nebraska game has gone for the last 2 years, which is unfathomable. I hate Nebraska, and I feel so bad for them. I think this game will be closer. Their defense is so much better than TCU's is, but I still think Colorado's got too much talent.
Big road test for the other big college football hire of the offseason, Matt Rule. Notre Dame, NC State also at noon. I'm a little nervous for this one. It's the actual, first real, test for Notre Dame. They played Navy and Tennessee State so far, so if you want to flip that on while you're watching a commercial break for Nebraska, Colorado, go ahead. NC State's got a pretty good quarterback this year, Brennan Armstrong. He's a transfer from Virginia. He's very mobile. And Sam Hartman has played NC State a lot. Now he's playing against them for a different team. So we'll see how that goes. I'm a little nervous for it. But the big game of the weekend, Lucy, Texas at Alabama. Who you got? You predicted an upset last week with Duke and Clemson. Are we going to predict another upset? Alabama's a favorite.
Am I wrong for what? Texas should have won last year.
They should have won last year.
They should have won last year.
Quarterback got hurt.
It's in Alabama.
Say it.
Screw it. Give me Texas.
Texas is back, Lucy.
I don't want to say that.
Say it.
Texas is back.
My God.
I don't know if I believe in Texas.
Leave that in.